Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Matt Bernier. Welcome to the DRFBets Race of the Day for Friday, February the 8th. We've got stakes action at Turfway Park. It's the local prep for the Jeff Ruby Stakes, an interesting Kentucky Derby prep to say the least, on the poly-track surface. You can bet this nice Friday card at Turfway, including a full field of 3-year-olds in the Battaglia with a DRFBets account. Sign up at bets.drf.com, deposit $50, bet with $200. Let's meet the field of 3-year-olds getting set to go a mile and a 16th on the poly in the John Battaglia Memorial. You can access free formulator pass performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at drf.com. Download them, handicap along with us. We'll take the field in post position order, beginning with a Michael Maker trained 3-year-old, the number 1, Kentucky All-Star. And Kentucky All-Star handled the synthetic in his surface debut last time out, but he only beat 3 others.
I was going to say, really short field. You always have to respect Maker, especially at Turfway, but I can't help but notice, if you look at the Timeform US ratings, he's gotten progressively slower as they've run him on surfaces other than dirt. Now, maybe the buyers would suggest he's on par, but I have to be honest, I think he might be a little bit slower as far as these other surfaces are concerned. And you brought it up. You beat a field of 4 all told, and with a slow figure. I know the 2 turns isn't an issue, but at the end of the day, I don't love this horse, even though he's a half to one of my favorites, Ritzy AP.
Yeah, he does have that turf and synth blood with Ritzy AP as a half-brother. He draws a nice inside post position with a shortish run to the first turn, and he should get some pace to attack. As we throw up the Timeform US pace projector, you'll note that red bar. They believe, our friends at Timeform US, they're the they think that this race will be fast, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case. The 2 Wallace has a lot of early speed stretching out off a sprint. This gelding is already a stakes winner over Yielding Turf at Woodbine, and last time out they tried dirt. It's probably not his cup of tea. He ran 3rd in a 5-horse field. I'd expect better, but boy, I'm not sure about the distance, especially if he has to press a fast pace.
I was going to say, just take a look and see. He's predominantly been campaigned even shorter than 6 furlongs. He's had a number of 5.5 races. Makes me wonder about distance. And also, that stakes race, I know this horse did win a race, but at the end of the day, from a buyer standpoint, that is far and away the outlier. He's a horse that had never really earned anything bigger than 55. He comes through with that 80. I don't know where that came from. You couple that with the distance and his running style, I don't want him.
Lasix was just what the doctor ordered for the number 3 Dynamic Racer last time out, as he scored by a neck, career best buyer speed figure of a 62. Now, he's going to have to continue his buyer improvement if he is going to threaten in the Battaglia, and he's going to have to probably do it a different way. He was tracking in second when he won last time out. Timeform US has the 3 much farther behind after a half mile.
Yeah, I can't help but think he's going to get a little bit outrun here. I mean, he got that quarter mile himself in 25 seconds for that most recent run. I'd imagine they're going to be going quicker than that. I don't know if it's going to be an absolute scramble on the front end for pace, but I think there's going to be an honest pace. And it just makes me think that he's probably going to come from more mid-pack in this position. And at the end of the day, you're right. He moved up considerably with Lasix. I think he's going to need to move up again if he's going to hit the board.
You'll note that the deep closer in this race is the number 4 Dabo. And while I usually don't like that running style, this fast pace can help. And I wouldn't sleep on Dabo. I think he's a little bit dirtied up coming into this race. He came from almost 20 lengths out to win his career debut sprinting at Arlington. He was purchased by West Point Thoroughbreds and Company after that race. They tried dirt. I'm not going to hold that race against him. Last time out on turf, that was a race that produced 3 next out winners, and he had no pace to run at.
I was going to say, and you brought it up, not only the next out winners, but I think they're actually decent horses. We know a Thread of Blue. He came back and won a stakes race down at Gulfstream this past weekend. The top 3 finishers all came back and earned greater than 81 buyer speed figures. So clearly you're looking at a little bit of ability in that run. And I know this was probably an anomaly in just the fact that it was his maiden race, but when was the last time you saw a horse win a 6-furlong race coming from 18 lengths out of it? I think this horse is okay, and like you say, if that pace heats up, I think he's going to come with a run.
And that race was his only other prior start on a synthetic surface. He has been away a month and a half, but is coming into this race off a bullet work for a fantastic trainer in Dale Romans. Number 5, Zulu Legend. I wouldn't be surprised if he's part of this pace. He's stretching out considerably off of 3 sprints. He's won his last 2 at Mahoning Valley on dirt, and I think there's a little bit of turf on the bottom of this pedigree. The jury's still out as to whether his sire, Zulu Magic, is going to be a synthetic influence. He's paired up Beyer Tops in his last 2 races, but it just seems like a big ask, stretching out 3 furlongs with other speeds.
Yeah, and a different surface too. Like you say, it's going to be interesting to see if he ultimately takes to it. I do find it interesting. Broke the maiden two back against an absolutely awful field at Mahoning Valley. Comes back in his first start as a 3-year-old and takes on older horses and gets the job done. So maybe you want to give him a little bit of extra credit for that. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are working against him, I think, in this spot.
A little bit of a difference of opinion between Beyer and Timeform US on the chances of the 6 over Protective, considering the last Beyer's speed figure, the maiden win by open lengths at Turfway Park at a mile. Beyer only gave over Protective a 65. Timeform US was a lot more charitable, gave the horse a 92. He's got the right running style. He handles the surface. He just needs a slight step forward to get into the picture. This is a horse that I would consider an exotics.
Yeah, I was going to say underneath to me feels like a good spot for him. I think he's probably a little bit overmatched as opposed to maybe the top few runners in this spot. But at the end of the day, he really seems to have taken his game to the next level, going 2 turns and on synthetic. And again, he's the kind of horse at a big price. Why couldn't you use him underneath?
Despite having never raced previously on a synthetic surface, the number 7, Some Like It Hot Brown, is the 8-5 morning line favorite, and deservingly so. Multiple graded stakes placed last year, and he ran great last time out in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where he had to go fast early over that extremely testing turf course, and he hung in deep inside the 16th pole before finishing a good third. We've already seen several horses come out of that race to win, including War of Will, who scored in the Lecomte on Dirt at the fairgrounds. Some Like It Hot Brown, from a speed figure standpoint, from a tactical standpoint, I think he can sit a little bit off the lead. We saw him come from way behind in that weirdly run 9 furlong race on Saratoga's August 8th card. Some Like It Hot Brown's the horse to beat, but he's never run on synth.
I was going to say, it is a great unknown until they actually do it. But from a tactical standpoint, I kind of agree with you. He won from way out of it that day. And I know that's his only victory to date, but he's shown some versatility. He doesn't need to be on the lead like he was in the Breeders' Cup. Also, keep in mind, that Breeders' Cup, I think it's even better than it looks on paper, because he was down toward the inside, and that's not where you wanted to be. You didn't want to be down toward the hedge on the turf course either Friday or Saturday. He ended up being down there. Again, it's not an interesting opinion, but I think he's way the horse to beat.
Maya Solamea, the number 8, 50-1 on the morning line. Timeform US had this one on the lead. It's possible that he'll outfoot Some Like It Hot Brown. It's possible he'll outfoot the 2 or the 5 to the front. He just won a maiden last time out at Mahoning Valley. He beat a couple of minor next out winners that day. The second dam was a graded stakes winner going a mile and an 1/8 on the turf, so maybe there is some turf and synthetic ability on the bottom of this pedigree. He's just real light from a Beyer standpoint. He may have to deal with other faster pace horses early, and he's stepping way up in class.
The other tough thing, too, is, we're getting to a point. I know he's a newly turned 3-year-old. This will be his first start as a 3-year-old, but he's run 7 times. And you do wonder, if you get to a certain point, and how much more improvement. Look, I'm not suggesting he's never going to get any faster, but so many things going against him. Winners for the first time, a different surface, solid horses, big pace. To me, this just doesn't feel like the sort of recipe for him to take a step forward.
Number 9, Naughty Joker's real interesting for Wesley Ward and the Ramseys. This horse never out of the exacta from 3 lifetime starts. And while he's never raced on synthetic, there's some synthetic blood. He's a half to a grade 3 placed synthetic runner named 7 Sleek Humor, also a stakes placed dirt sprinter named Cathedral Reader. So this horse has some pedigree. His win last time out over a sloppy track was his first race around 2 turns. And the 4th place horse came right back to graduate with a 63 Beyer. So this horse might be a little bit of a sleeper in waiting, and I'm expecting a mid-pack trip.
Yeah, you brought up 7 Fleet Humor. That was the real thing that made me a little bit intrigued with this horse. Maybe he's one that could be a little bit of an upset candidate in here. Not only did that horse finish second in the Marine, but also second in the Wando, both of those races up at Woodbine over the Synth. So you clearly have got some good things going there. And again, Ward, Turfway, very similar to Mike Maker at Turfway. Throw them out at your own risk.
Echo Alpha 6 is stretching out considerably in distance, 3 furlongs. He's never gone farther than 6 furlongs in his career. I think he's bred to get the distance. He's by Sky Mesa, out of a half-sister to Bird Run, who won the Brooklyn at a 1.5 miles. So I'm not too worried about the distance. He ran well on turf last time out at the fairgrounds, but I really liked his performance 2 starts back sprinting at Turfway. It was a race where he broke from the far outside post. He was prompting the pace 5 wide, lost ground all the way throughout the turn, and only got beat 3/4 of a length by a 1-10 favorite that rode the rail throughout. His Beyers have improved with each and every start. I think he can sit off the pace. I think he's going to get the distance, and I know he's going to be a price.
I was going to say, you're looking at a horse that's going to be a very, very square number. You brought up the pedigree that's there. And even from a class standpoint, I know it was down at the fairgrounds and it was on turf, but that was a decent enough field. The winner that day came back and earned a 74 on dirt in his next start. I think this is the kind of horse that maybe look, I think the post is going to be a little bit difficult to overcome. I think any of these horses drawn too far outside are in a little bit of heat. But at the same time, you're probably looking at a horse that's going to be a double-digit odds, I would imagine, has the breeding for it, and has already run relatively well over the Turfway sort of surface. I don't think that's anything that you want to sneeze at.
The number 11 Bermejo may very well be the key to this race. He won his career debut over sort of a second-tier track in France over the summer of 2018. He's now with Arnaud Delacour and Team Valor. These are very dangerous connections. They know what they're doing. And this horse, you could argue, has already outrun his pedigree. His sire was strictly a turf sprinter. 5.5, 6 furlongs. The second dam was Group 3 placed, going 7 furlongs. This horse won at a mile over a synthetic surface in France and did it very, very easily. I don't know what we're going to get off the layoff, but you got to respect these connections.
Yeah, anytime Delacour sends out a runner, specifically first time here in the States in a stakes race and is owned by Team Valor, all things that you want to take note of. Look, you brought it up. I really don't know what to make of this horse because visually, the way that he broke his maiden in that career debut, he was awesome that day, but and admittedly, you don't get to see any kind of fractions going throughout some of those French races, and this one was over at Pornichet. I looked like they were going pretty slow, and he was out there on the front end, and he was able to kick away very, very nicely down the lane. He looked like a good thing. I just don't know how's he going to deal with likely a faster pace situation. First time going up against arguably better company. There's enough things in here that I don't love him in this spot, but he is the wild card in here. If you're not sold on anyone else, if you believe the 12-1, which I don't think you're going to get, I think you're probably looking at 5-1. Maybe he's the answer.
Worth noting, he's also cross-entered on Friday at Tampa Bay Downs. The 12 is the Mackham Bullet. This is a filly taking on the boys. Group 1 placed overseas last year. Ran just fine, I thought, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. Nobody's beaten newspaper record that day. And the fillies actually in the Breeders' Cup, the 2-year-old turf fillies went faster than the boys on the same card. The Mackham Bullet came back. Last start as a 2-year-old. First time synthetic in North America, destroyed the field despite being very, very late to change leads. This is a very tough outside post position for her to overcome, but there seems to be some pace, and maybe if she can save a little bit of ground, she can come with the run. She's got some class. I think she'll handle the distance, and again, visually impressive for the great Wesley Ward.
I got to be honest with you. This post, it's unfortunate that she drew so far outside. I think there's some real ability here. When she came here for the Breeders' Cup, my big sort of concern with her was the distance. I didn't know that she was going to necessarily appreciate going out to 2 turns. She didn't run poorly that day. She didn't run great, but I'll give her the benefit of the doubt first time coming over here. And then that most recent run, I know she didn't beat a heck of a lot in there, but boy, she did it the right way. And you brought up the late lead change. The reason that I'm a little bit kinder to a horse like this is because she, for all intents and purposes, she's a European that's just getting used to things over here. I'm usually going to give those horses a little bit of, give them the benefit of the doubt before I go grading them too harshly. I think she's got ability. I just think this post is really tough to overcome.
Top pick time for Friday's race of the day, the John Battaglia Memorial. Again, this is a key prep for the Jeff Ruby Stakes, which is an important prep race for the Kentucky Derby. You like the 7, some like it hot brown. Listen, again, he's multiple graded stakes race. He is the class of the race. It's just whether he handles the synth.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's a kind of an uninteresting opinion in this spot. I just think the ability that he's shown that he doesn't have to go to the lead, I tend to agree that there's enough horses that want to be forward or are stretching out in distance that, you know what, the fact that he can come off the pace, I think that really goes a long way in this spot. And again, the Mackham Bullet, if she was drawn a little bit better, perhaps I'd be a little bit more inclined to take a shot with her. But I just think that outside draw with some other speed, maybe it's going to be a little bit too much for her to overcome.
Give me numbers.
7, 12, 11, 4.
I'm going to give Echo Alpha 6 a chance. I like all 3 of this gelding's races. Again, I think ground loss really contributed to his defeat over this surface 2 starts back when taking on that odds-on winner, and he is bred to go long. He's 8-1 on the morning line. I think that is a fair price on him as he tries the 2 turns for the first time, but obviously some like it hot brown, and the Mackham Bullet, if they run their best races, will be tough. Thus I go 10, 7, 12, and 5 in our DRFBets race of the day for Friday. It's the Battaglia. You can bet it with a DRFBets account. DRFBets, ready, set, bet. Approximate post time for the John Battaglia Memorial, race number 5 at Turfway Park on Friday, 8:12 Eastern. Best of luck.